I'd like to welcome you to this fine episode this morning, afternoon, evening, or even midnight, whenever you're listening to it. Absolute honour to be here with you guys and sharing some wisdom of what I've been working on, I guess, within my own life, but also with my coaching clients. This has really been coming up quite a bit over the past few weeks. And when I work with people, it's so interesting because I really do find out more about myself the deeper I go with my clients. And sometimes when my clients get a little aha moment, I'm like, fuck, I felt that, and that something sparks in me, and I'm like, I'm understanding more about myself as well. So it's a really cool journey, and what we're talking about today is basically our belief systems, because beliefs can really mess with a lot of areas of our life, if not all the areas of our life. And where beliefs come from, I mean, we all have these core beliefs about ourselves. We have these core beliefs about others. We have these core beliefs about the world. And these beliefs are so deep down that it's not as easy as going, yeah, I believe that the world is beautiful and da da da, because it's just, that's not your core belief. We all have these core beliefs about ourselves, about the world, and about others and whatnot. And so when we dive into these beliefs, there's this, it's such an interesting dynamic, because once you discover what your core beliefs are in a dysfunctional way, it's fucking scary, because you see it and you're like, fuck, man, I really see how my core beliefs have been littered throughout my whole entire life, and I now see why I've made the decisions that I have made, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, and all these decisions stem from pretty much a more often than not a dysfunctional belief system, right? Dysfunctional core belief system. And the only time when we make choices or make decisions not from a dysfunctional place is when we're fully in our truth, when we're in our authentic and genuine nature. And those situations, sometimes we can accidentally fall into those experiences of being our true and authentic and real people, our real selves, our true and authentic and real selves. And when we're in that space, when we fall into that, then it's like, it's a no-brainer to make the right choices for ourselves and for our families and for our friends and for our lives. It's a no-brainer. But how cool would it be if we lived in a world or lived in a life where we could consciously choose to step in to our truth, to our authenticity, and that life is available to all of us, but fuck, it takes some work. You know, it does. It takes work. And the work part is actually doing the digging, you know, like doing the digging for yourself and doing the digging of who you really are. And it's such a fucking cool journey. And so that's how I wanted to talk to you about that today. I wanted to discuss these beliefs and how they're pretty much fucking everything up in your life. And I mean, it sounds pretty drastic, but that's the truth of it. That's the actual truth of it. That if you don't know how to navigate your way through your core beliefs, you're fucked, man, because you're constantly going to be making dysfunctional decisions based on these core beliefs. And a lot of people will go like, well, you know, why do they mess everything up? And the reason they do mess everything up in terms of your core beliefs is because your core beliefs are trying to protect you from something or take you towards something. And when our core beliefs, and you know what, the other thing is where do core beliefs actually come from? I mean, they're an egoic belief, which basically means that we believe something about ourselves, we believe something about others, and we believe something about the world. And usually this is a protection mechanism that our ego builds up over time. But essentially, our belief system, more often than not, comes from either a traumatic experience in our childhood that we deemed to be traumatic back at that time. And so and it's usually between the ages of sort of 3 and 6 years old when we develop these egoic core beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. And when we do those, we don't realize that we hold on to those belief systems throughout our whole entire life. And I think I've mentioned a little bit about this in previous episodes, but I'm really going to go into depth into it with this one because it's so important when we and I just want to give you a couple of examples of core beliefs that some of you, or I think most of you, will relate to. Maybe one or two of those. So a core belief could be, I must be perfect at everything that I do, or I have to be right. And like when you must be perfect at everything and you have to be right, man, you're going to be chugging up that hill with a barrel behind you and maybe 10 barrels behind you. It'll be a hard place to get to a level of happiness when you've got to be perfect at everything you do and you have to be fucking right. Another one is this is an actual belief, a core belief system. I must give my power away to others in order to be loved. And people like that usually find themselves in situations where they keep creating relationships where they're constantly giving and they're fucking wrecked because they get nothing back. And the only reason that they're giving constantly is because they think the more they give, the more they'll be loved. But ultimately what ends up happening is they're not loved and they're treated like shit. Another one is I have to accomplish and succeed to survive. So they're constantly trying to get shit done. They're constantly fucking trying to succeed. And even once they get there, they're not fucking happy, so they keep having to accomplish and succeed. I've got to be different from others, or I must be unique. So they're constantly going out into the world and trying to set themselves apart from others for no fucking reason, because I've got this core belief that they must be unique. What else have we got? So I constantly have to protect myself from the world. No one can be trusted. Fuck, this is a big one with a lot of people where they genuinely believe that no one can be fucking trusted. Imagine going through life just assuming that everyone's a fucking liar or no one can be trusted. That's a tough slog. What's another one? People in the world. People like and the world is unpredictable, unreliable, and downright dangerous. People have this belief, so they go out into the world thinking that everything's dangerous, everything's unpredictable, everything's unreliable. You may as well just fucking lock the doors and stay inside. I always need to keep all possibilities open to have a great life. Oh, tiring, man. Like, always trying to keep all the possibilities open and not committing to anything, specific, because we have to have 10 or 12 things that are open at the one time. Otherwise, that's the only way to have a great life. This is me. I know this very well. I can't show vulnerability. Oh, no, that's not me. No. This is me. I always need to keep all... No. Where am I? Oh, no, sorry. No, this is not me. My bad. I'm about to read a different one out. I can't show vulnerability and I have to be in control. Another big one, huge one. I just made some notes before I started the podcast. I actually prepared, guys. I didn't just turn on record and go for it. But yeah, so that's another one. I can't show vulnerability and have to be in control. Ouch. So this is my core belief that's coming up. So I know this one well. I must avoid conflict at all costs and any other emotional disturbances. I know this one very well. Anytime there's conflict, I'm fucking running the other way. So what do these core beliefs actually, what do they give us? What do they do for us? And these core beliefs have a function. And the function of these core beliefs, which we built when we were little kids from the age of 3 to 6, and the reason that we, or our egoic nature, built these beliefs is to basically protect us from the outer world in its own little way. So I don't think I mentioned this before, but I did this whole process where I tuned in to my child, inner child, and young kid and whatever. But basically, I had this traumatic experience where my first ever shower that I had when I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old. And I was taking baths up until that point, but I was like, this is my first ever shower. And I remembered that I hated it so much. I didn't like the feeling of shower. I just wanted to go back into the bath. And I wanted to get out of the shower. And Dad pushed me back into the shower because he wanted me to learn how to have a shower. And I kept trying to get out, and Dad pushed me back into the shower, just kept pushing me back in. And I found that so fucking traumatic that I actually built this thing in myself, that I saw that as that I can't have any I don't have power. So even if I try and leave a situation or try and get out of something, I don't have the power. I'm just going to be constantly pushed back into the corner. So in that sense, I must avoid any type of conflict and any type of emotional disturbance. And so anytime there's any like conflict or anything, I have to sit back. And a lot of, and funny enough, like the interesting thing is that I actually, with my coaching clients and people that I work with, whether it's groups or individuals or whatever, so often I'll bring in people that have that exact core belief where they'll just want to avoid conflict and whatnot. And as soon as I bring them in, I'm like, oh, fucking hell, I got to deal with myself again. How annoying. Not all of them, but, a good half of my coaching clients are bloody have that core belief. And I'm like, fuck off. Can we just get someone else in? I don't really say that. I mean, I love working with people. And even with that, when people realize what their core belief is, fuck, man, it's so powerful because as I mentioned before, you really do see how that navigates all our decision-making processes. And so once you do find that out, there's this inner yearning or this inner thing that you want to know when it's your egoic nature or your belief system making decisions for you in a subconscious level, or whether it's your truth. And that's the real balance there, isn't it? Because how do you know? Because when you're triggered, this is the best part to understand or to get even start the process to finding out what your core belief is that when you're fucking triggered by a situation, right? You're triggered through the day. Someone says something and immediately you're fucking triggered. You go into that, oh, yeah, you know when you're triggered. Someone could just say the most simplest thing to you and it'll trigger the fuck out of you and it'll fuck your whole day up. Or it could be anything, just anything triggers, anything that sends you into an emotional disturbance. And you'll know when you're there because it'll give you this feeling of heaviness and no control, and your emotions take over your body, right? So in those moments, they're the moments where you can really catch yourself and go, okay, what's going on here? I've been triggered. Like, pick it apart. Like, be like a detective. When you're being triggered, remind yourself however you want to remind yourself. And the first few times, it's not going to work. You'll think about it after and you're like, oh man, I didn't think about it. I got triggered and fucking went off at someone or whatever it might be, right? But when you get triggered by any situation, whether it's your partner, your family, even yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning, whatever the fuck it might be, at work, at home, in a yoga class, in anything, right? Wherever. In that moment when you're being triggered, you take a step back and you just look at the situation and you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Right? And if, for example, you feel out of control, if you're feeling out of control, more often than not, your core belief will be that I have to control the world and I have to control everything in it. And I have to be like, I can't be vulnerable. I can't have vulnerability. Or if, let's say you do something and you've done a great job, right? And you get recognition, but you feel like shit. And you feel like shit because it's not perfect. More often than not, it's going to be the fact that you believe that everything has to be perfect and you have to be perfect at everything you do, and you also have to be right. It's a massive one. If you have to be right, in an argument, do you have to be right? What if you fucking weren't? And what if you just took a step back and listened? What if you just listened? It just being able to step back and just listen to what the other person is saying. Who cares if you're right or wrong? Irrelevant. Like, maybe practice doing some of these things. So the next time you're being triggered, take a step back. And even as I'm talking right now, you would probably be sitting there going, "Oh, fuck you, Tommy. Man, like I'm already, I reckon I've maybe pushed a few little buttons in you because you're listening to this going, uh-oh, what's coming up." So if you are being triggered, and you take a step back and you just, in that moment, you go, what's going on? What's going on in my body right now? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? And, it's so accessible now. I mean, you can use notes on your phone, or you can take a little pad, like a pad and paper with you, whatever it is. But in those moments, and they usually happen very subtly, or you might get triggered to the fuck house, right? And when it gets, the best time to do it is when it's subtle, and a subtle trigger. When someone says something and something in you goes, ugh, what was that? Didn't fucking like that in my body, fucking hell. And then it's like, okay, I've been triggered. And you could even do a thing where, through the day, you're sitting there going, you count how many times you got triggered. And then at the end of the day, you go through those little trigger, the highest trigger, the lowest trigger, whatever it might be. And you'll find that those triggers come from a very similar place. They come from a place of, I need to be perfect, or I have to accomplish and succeed to survive. Imagine that you have to constantly be accomplishing and succeeding in order to survive, and I mean, the whole thing of constantly trying to protect yourself. You're trying to protect yourself from the world. So fucking tiring. But notice and observe that when you're being triggered, what's going on? So that's a really easy way to know when your belief system is actually making the choices for you. When you feel threatened or triggered, right? This is an incredible way to go back, to reflect, and to go into it. So, okay, so let's say, and this is on a surface sort of level, so it's just totally up to you. Excuse me. It's totally up to you how deep you want to dive into this world of finding out about yourself. But if you do want to, dive a little bit deeper into it, there's many ways. I mean, usually if you really want to get in there and do the actual process of finding out your belief from childhood, like your actual core belief, you might be able to get it for yourself. Great, amazing. But sometimes it is good to have a third party facilitating it for you and bringing it out for you. So you could either, find a coach or find whatever. I mean, you can call me. I mean, this is not a sell, but you could, hit me up and we could do a session and see where it goes. But if you just want to keep, practicing and doing this triggering thing, great, go for it. But then once you find your core belief, what do you do about it? And this is the thing that's so interesting, because even with me, when I first found out what my core belief is and I went into it, it scared the fuck out of me. It really did, guys, because you just observe how what an incredible energy and impact this has had on my life over the 10, 20, 30, 40 years since you were a kid, man. Like, big stuff. It's huge. The big decisions, you make it from you go back and you notice where you've made decisions based on your truth and your authentic nature, and where you've made decisions based on your core beliefs. And sometimes you're like, oh God, that was a big fuck up back then. And so what do you do about it? And this is I reckon the most challenging part is you do nothing. And people go, what do you mean you do nothing? You fucking do nothing. When I say this to my coaching clients after a session, and they're like, yeah, but I need to fix this and I've fixed these belief systems. Dude, no. you can't fix this shit. This is, your core beliefs are there. They're not going to go anywhere. They're ingrained in you, and that's quite frustrating. And so once they're ingrained in you, they're there. But I mean, imagine if you just spent the rest of your life trying to fix your core belief systems. What a fucking waste that is. I mean, I reckon that's a waste. I'd rather be going on creating and being awesome and moving forward, being able to make decisions from my truth and my heart and my incredible gifts. Instead of trying to fix what my core beliefs are, you can't fucking fix that. It's impossible. You just got to keep moving forward, and moving forward, you make the decisions based on what your truth is. And that's a whole other fucking 20 episodes in that one. And, but I'm sure there's episodes in the Atomic Andy Unfiltered podcast. You could go back and have a look at the creation ones. But this beliefs thing, right? So the core beliefs, it's just like, what do you do about it? You fucking do nothing. And what I mean by that is, let's say, this is just an example, right? Is, let's say you're in a relationship and you're sitting there and your partner says something to you, whether it's let's just say, for example, relationship, your partner says something to you that fucking triggers you, and you want to go into full, fight where you want to be right, you want to be fucking right, and you want to get your point across, and your partner says something to you that triggered the fuck out of you, and so you've got two choices. You either go into full defensive mode and defend until you feel like you are right, which will obviously never happen because the other person will never go, oh yeah, you're right. Well, you know what? They probably will, just to fucking shut you up. But let's say that will happen, right? And you get triggered, and so that would be the moment to do nothing. Shut the fuck up. Don't say a word. Don't say anything. If you're being triggered, just sit with it. Feel that yucky bleh in the body. And don't do anything about it. Just sit with it. You don't have to respond. Or if you do want to respond, you can respond by, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing. And that's it. Do nothing, say nothing. Just do nothing, say nothing. That's just an example. Another example, if you are doing something and you feel like you need to succeed and accomplish, but you've already done stuff for the day, right? But you get to the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to put another 4 or 5 hours and keep going, keep succeeding, keep accomplishing. In that moment when you're triggered, do fucking nothing. Like literally sit and just feel that tension, that energy in the body. That's the thing, guys. When people go, what do I do about it? You do fucking nothing. For me, see, I'm the opposite. When I'm in conflict, it's actually the opposite, right? When I'm in conflict, let's say if I have an argument with Nick, or we have a disagreement or whatever, what I would do is, instead of fighting back, I would remove myself from the situation. But even that's doing something, because I'm avoiding the conflict and I'm walking away and I'm hiding and, avoiding any type of emotional disturbance. So what's my nothing? My nothing is sitting in the fire and staying in, if she's saying something to me or whatever, or any situation there, you got to sit in the fire and not fucking run. Be able to sit there and be strong and sit there and be like, that's interesting. Or, babe, do you know what? Thank you for sharing that, but I need to just do something with this information, and I'll come back to you with it. It doesn't matter what they say. You just sit there doing nothing. And it's so counterintuitive, because what you either want to run, or you either want to be right, or you either want to succeed and accomplish, or you want to avoid fucking vulnerability. So you try and control the situation, or you try and be perfect, or whatever the fuck it is, or you give all your power away to in order to be loved. I mean, there's so many things, guys. So this is the part where we have to learn to do nothing. And the reason that we do nothing is because when we do nothing, it creates this tension right in the body. And in my world, the way that I've learned or whatever, this is called structural tension, which is what we want, because structural tension fires up our truth. It fires up our authentic nature. It fires up our intuition. And to be able to sit with that structural tension until it gets so much that our intuition comes in, our authentic nature comes in, and it goes, let's go. And it allows that tension to just resolve. And then you're then in your heart, you're then in your intuitive nature and authentic nature. And man, what a feeling that is. But we all have to learn to sit in that tension of being triggered, doing nothing, allowing the tension to rise, rise, rise. Intuition comes in and brings us into our true and authentic nature. And almost like magic, everything starts to shift and change because we become our true and authentic nature, and things don't seem as crazy as what they did when we're working out of our dysfunctional or core belief area. We're not surviving. We're not pretending. We're not being fake. We're not being driven by our core belief, dysfunctional beliefs. So there you go, guys. I reckon some of you might have quite a few questions surrounding that episode. And if you do, by all means, jump in, talk to me, hit me up, let me know. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And other than that, guys, I really appreciate you being here with me, listening. And thank you to all of you who have recent reviewed and shared the podcast even. I'm really, really appreciative. And thank you. And ultimately, guys, like all we're really here to do is to spend more time diving into our truth. Fixing shit won't get you anywhere. Well, it will. It'll get you further down the rabbit hole of where you don't want to go. So put the energy more into what you do want, which is your true and authentic nature. We're not here to fucking survive. We are here to flourish. Love you guts. Have an epic day. See you later.